Despite calling Atlanta his home, Goldberg's story actually begins 784 miles west in Tulsa, Oklahoma. On December 27, 1966, William Scott Goldberg entered the world. Even at a young age, Goldberg was a big kid. So big, in fact, that he worked as a bouncer at a nightclub when he was just 16 years old. Goldberg's size made him a natural for sports, but instead of pursuing a career in wrestling, Goldberg was first drawn to the world of football. He attended the University of Georgia on a football scholarship, and upon graduating, Goldberg had a wild 5 years as a professional player. He started his career playing for the NFL team, the Los Angeles Rams. However, from 1990 to 1995, Goldberg played for a total of 5 different teams across 3 different leagues. But after tearing his lower abdomen, Goldberg's football career was over. While Goldberg did get to fulfill his dream of playing in the NFL, he didn't achieve the level of success he had hoped for. As they say though, when one door closes, another opens, and Goldberg found that door in an unlikely place. While Goldberg was rehabbing from his injury, he was spotted by Sting and Lex Luger. Goldberg wasn't a fan of wrestling, so when Sting and Luger suggested he become a wrestler, Goldberg was hesitant about the idea. Due to his lackluster football career though, he decided to give the squared circle a try. Goldberg started his training in 1996 at WCW's wrestling school, the Power Plant. After about a year of just learning, Goldberg wrestled in a few non-televised matches, before finally making his debut on September 22nd, 1997. On a Monday night in Salt Lake City, Utah, one of the biggest wrestling stars of the 90s made his debut. And I'm not talking about Hugh Morris. Ironically, Goldberg didn't get an entrance and was already in the ring, unlike his previously mentioned opponent. The bell rang, and Goldberg got the first strikes of the match in. After that, the two started grappling, and while Hugh Morris put up a fight, Goldberg easily overpowered him. Morris then took control of the clothesline and a moonsault from the top rope. The moves didn't seem to do any damage though, as Goldberg quickly fought back. A successful jackhammer put an end to the fight, and Goldberg won in less than 3 minutes. Having Goldberg not make an entrance was a simple but effective way to debut him. It added this layer of mystery to the character, seeing him literally just show up. It also made it all the more surprising when Goldberg dominated and won the match. WWE would actually do the same thing when Baron Corbin debuted nearly 20 years later. The mystique of Goldberg was highlighted even more after the match when he refused to give a post-match interview. Things would stay the same for the next few weeks. Goldberg would have very one-sided matches that usually only lasted a minute or two. Heck, in some cases, they didn't even go past 30 seconds. While Goldberg would keep his silent persona, he did finally get his iconic entrance music during his third match.
He's got a look about him that tells me there's something special about this young guy. We're gonna find out here.
For the first month of Goldberg's career, it wasn't clear if he was a good guy or a bad guy. That would change at Halloween Havoc 1997. During his first pay-per-view appearance, Goldberg interfered in Steve McMichael's match and attacked him. He also took the former football player's Super Bowl ring after Steve McMichael's wife handed it to him. McMichael got his revenge the next night on Nitro when he attacked Goldberg before Goldie was supposed to have a TV championship match. Goldberg would finally clash with Steve at Starrcade 97, which was also Goldberg's first pay-per-view match. While the former Chicago Bears player wasn't a pushover, Goldberg did what he had done 10 times in a row, and that was win. As Goldberg's debut year came to an end, 1998 started out much the same, with Goldberg continuing to rack up wins. However, in February, Goldberg would compete in one of the most infamous matches of his career. On an episode of Nitro, Goldberg fought William Regal, known as Steven Regal at the time. The story varies depending on who you talk to, but most generally agree Regal took some liberties with Goldberg. This resulted in a more competitive match and helped expose one of the biggest criticisms of Goldberg, that he was limited in the ring. Regardless, the match with Regal didn't harm Goldberg's career, and afterward, it was business as usual. Around this time, Goldberg became more and more popular, and naturally became a fan favorite. After months of victories, Goldberg would finally get another shot at a championship. On the April 20th, 1998 episode of Nitro, Goldberg challenged the United States champion, Raven. Despite interference from Raven's henchmen, Goldberg could not be stopped, and he defeated the champion and won his first title. Following this, Goldberg began a brief feud with Raven's group, Raven's Flock, which saw him defeat every member who stepped up to face him. With all the victories Goldberg had achieved, the only thing left for him to do was win the world title. The championship was being held by the leader of the NWO, Hulk Hogan, who eventually agreed to give Goldberg a shot. The match took place in Goldberg's hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, but he didn't get his title shot right away. Hogan said that Goldberg had to first defeat Scott Hall before he put his championship on the line. Goldberg defeated Hall and then laid out Hulk Hogan to win his first world World Championship. While this meant that Goldberg had to vacate the US title, it was a small price to pay. Over the next several months, things remained the same. Goldberg would mow down anyone who crossed his path and continued to hold the gold. This included Goldberg's legendary match against Diamond Dallas Page at Halloween Havoc in 1998. There was also sort of a feud Goldberg had with Chris Jericho. Jericho would repeatedly call out Goldberg and mock the world champion. While they did get physical, the match never happened due to backstage and creative differences. Don't forget about this little feud with Jericho though, it will be important later. Anyways, Goldberg started to have matches that ended in no contest, usually due to outside interference. In November 1998, Kevin Nash won a battle royal, earning himself a shot at Goldberg. The two had their match at the final pay-per-view of the year, Starrcade, and this is where Goldberg's career drastically changed. During the championship match, Disco Inferno and Bam Bam Bigelow interfered. They weren't much of an issue for Goldberg, but Scott Hall was. Hall shocked Goldberg with a taser, allowing Kevin Nash to capitalize and become the first person to defeat Goldberg. There was actually a bit of controversy surrounding Goldberg's streak. Before Goldberg's match with Kevin Nash, WCW said Goldberg's streak was 173-0. However, many people, including wrestlers who were working for WCW, claim that this number was false. Well, let's put it to rest once and for all. Was WCW lying? And if so, what was the real number? Well, counting just televised matches, Goldberg's streak was 99-0, with his Starrcade match against Nash being match 100 for him. Well, how about if we count untelevised matches too? That puts Goldberg's streak at 166-0 going into his Starrcade match. So while WCW did lie, they didn't inflate the number as much as people might think. Anyways, let's get back to Goldberg's streakless career. On the first Nitro of 1999, Goldberg was set to have a rematch against Kevin Nash. However, Goldberg would be arrested for stalking Miss Elizabeth, which of course was false. After that, Goldberg instead decided to focus on Scott Hall. The two fought at the sold-out pay-per-view in a stun gun ladder match. Goldberg got even with Hall and defeated him. However, after the match, Goldberg was attacked by Bam Bam Bigelow. At the next pay-per-view, Super Brawl, Goldberg fought Bigelow and beat him. Goldberg took care of the last person on his hit list, Kevin Nash, at Spring Stampede in April 1999. Unfortunately, Kevin Nash was no longer the world champion, but Goldberg would get another shot at the title not long after. On the April 19th, 1999 episode of Nitro, Goldberg got his first one-on-one shot at the World Heavyweight Championship since Starrcade. The champion was now Diamond Dallas Page, which seemed to put the match in Goldberg's favor, considering he had defeated Page several months earlier. Unfortunately, due to outside interference and just pure chaos, the match ended in a no contest. The next week, Goldberg got another title opportunity. However, this time, it was a fatal four-way match that included Kevin Nash and Sting. Goldberg looked like he had the match won, but a surprise attack by Randy Savage killed any hopes of Goldberg regaining the gold. For whatever reason, everyone headed out for Goldberg because he got attacked again just a few weeks later. At Slamboree, Goldberg was attacked by Bret Hart as well as Rick and Scott Steiner. It was so brutal that Goldberg was taken out of action with an injury. The real reason for this was so that Goldberg could spend time filming Universal Soldier: The Return. Speaking of Universal Soldier, when Goldberg returned, he actually changed his theme song for a short while and walked out to one of the songs from the movie. Anyways, Goldberg returned in July 1999 and started a feud with one of the men who took him out, Rick Steiner. Goldberg defeated Rick at Road Wild and then went after his old rival, DDP. Unfortunately for Goldberg, Page wasn't alone this time, as he now had Chris Kanyon and Bam Bam Bigelow by his side. While they did interfere, Goldberg is Goldberg, so he still defeated DDP. With Page out of the way, Goldberg turned his attention to a new challenger, the US champion, Sid Vicious. Similar to Goldberg, Sid had been on a winning streak, and Goldberg was determined to end it. The two locked up at Halloween Havoc 1999 with the US title on the line. Before the match though, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash reintroduced themselves to Goldberg. However, if you think this prevented Goldberg from winning the match, then you haven't learned anything. With that said, Goldberg only won due to the referee's decision. This was still good enough though for Goldberg to win the US Championship, the first title Goldberg had won since he lost the World Championship in December 98. Goldberg's night was not over yet though. The World Champion Sting issued an open challenge, and Goldberg answered. Despite commentators saying the match was non-title, Goldberg was still awarded the World Championship after defeating Sting. However, the next night, the WCW Commissioner, J.J. Dillon, ruled the match wasn't sanctioned. Therefore, Goldberg's World Championship win was void. The bad news continued for Goldberg, as he had to defend his US title against Bret Hart. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sid Vicious all interfered, and this time, it actually caught up to Goldberg, and he lost the United States Championship. This set up a rematch between Goldberg and Sid at the next pay-per-view, Mayhem. The match was I Quit, but Goldberg had no problem getting vicious to say those two magic words. After finishing things up with Sid, Goldberg would finally set his sights on becoming World Heavyweight Champion again. Goldberg challenged the champion, Bret Hart, to a match at Starrcade, which Hart accepted. In the weeks leading up to their match, Goldberg would actually be paired with Bret Hart. They went on to win the WCW Tag Team Championship too, but lost the belts a week later. Finally, Starrcade came, and Goldberg and Bret Hart went one-on-one. During the match, multiple referees got knocked down, forcing Roddy Piper to officiate. Bret eventually got Goldberg in the sharpshooter, but Piper inexplicably called for the bell, even though Goldberg never submitted. Of course, this was a reference to the Montreal Screwjob that had happened a little over 2 years earlier. The match between Goldberg and Bret is rather infamous, not just for the ending, but for what happened during the fight. At one point, Goldberg hit Bret with a kick to the head that actually connected, resulting in Bret Hart's career coming to an end not long after. Anyways, the next night on Nitro, Bret Hart vacated the world title, saying he didn't deserve to be champion after how things went down at Starrcade. This set up a rematch between Goldberg and Bret that night, with the world title on the line. Like in previous matches, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall interfered and attacked Goldberg. In a twist though, Bret Hart joined them and ultimately beat The Man. This would actually be Goldberg's last match for a few months, due to what happened next. On Nitro a few days later, Goldberg chased Bret Hart out of the arena. In his rage, Goldberg destroyed a nearby limo, but accidentally sliced an artery in his arm. The injury was so serious that Goldberg nearly had his forearm amputated. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and in late May 2000, Goldberg returned. Ironically, he came to the aid of Kevin Nash. Don't worry though, Goldberg hadn't forgotten what Nash did to him. At the Great American Bash pay-per-view, Goldberg attacked Nash, causing him to lose his World Championship match. This also resulted in Goldberg joining the villainous New Blood faction. In the following weeks, Goldberg and Kevin Nash would come face-to-face multiple times, but didn't have a proper match until Bash at the Beach. At the show, fellow New Blood member Scott Steiner interfered, allowing Goldberg to beat Nash. About a month later though, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, and Steiner would face off in a number one contenders match for the world title. During the match, Goldberg would walk out, making it appear like he was going off script. Goldberg got into a verbal argument with Vince Russo and broke away from the New Blood group. This led to a no disqualification match against Scott Steiner at the Fall Brawl pay-per-view. However, Vince Russo interfered and aided Steiner, leading to Goldberg's defeat. This didn't end Goldberg's rivalry with Russo and the New Blood, however. After weeks of feuding and attacks, Russo made an ultimatum. If Goldberg lost a match at any time, he would be fired. It was similar to what Vince McMahon would do to Ric Flair 7 years later. However, if Goldberg exceeded his undefeated streak of over 170 matches, he'd be given a World Championship match. For the next few months, Goldberg had a never-ending amount of challenges thrown his way, whether it was being put in a handicap match, wrestling multiple times in a single night, or something else. The storyline led to a feud with Lex Luger that saw Goldberg defeat him at the Mayhem pay-per-view. A rematch was made for the final pay-per-view of the year, Starrcade. Despite it being a no disqualification match, Goldberg got the win and kept his job. However, he was attacked by Buff Bagwell after the victory. This led to Goldberg teaming with the man who trained him, Dwayne Bruce, to take on Luger and Bagwell. They fought at the first pay-per-view of 2001, Sin, but Goldberg's winning ways finally came to an end. The match was no DQ, and a fan in the crowd sprayed Goldberg with mace. This allowed Lex and Buff to win the match and forced Goldberg to leave WCW. The reason for this was to allow Goldberg time off to undergo shoulder surgery, but by the time he was ready to return, WCW had gone out of business. Over a year after his final WCW match, Goldberg returned to wrestling, competing for the company All Japan Pro Wrestling. Between August 2002 and January 2003, Goldberg wrestled 4 matches, all of which he won. However, WWE soon came calling, and the night after WrestleMania 19, Goldberg made his long-awaited debut. The former WCW star made his presence known immediately by attacking The Rock. While the Brahma Bull did win some verbal battles against Goldberg, the man got the last laugh when he defeated The Rock in the main event of Backlash. A few weeks later, things got interesting when a vehicle tried to run over Goldberg, leaving everyone to question who was driving it. The answer would come a week later, when it was revealed that Lance Storm was behind the wheel. However, the mastermind behind the attack was actually Chris Jericho. Y2J explained he was jealous of Goldberg's success and felt the only thing left for him to do was to defeat the man he never got to fight in WCW. See, I told you that'd be important. This set the stage for a match at the Bad Blood pay-per-view. Jericho was a smart opponent, but Goldberg ultimately won the fight. With Y2J taken care of, Goldberg targeted the World Championship and the man who held it, Triple H. H. Goldberg was originally granted a match against the game at SummerSlam by Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff. However, the other GM, Stone Cold, altered the match and made it an Elimination Chamber. This resulted in Randy Orton, Kevin Nash, Chris Jericho, and Shawn Michaels all being added. Despite the odds, Goldberg dominated the match. Being the last person out of their pod also helped. Despite that, Triple H got the better of Goldberg and gave the former WCW superstar his first defeat in WWE. Things went from bad to worse after the match when Triple H and his Evolution buddies attacked a defenseless Goldberg. The next night on Raw, Goldberg challenged Triple H to a one-on-one match. The world champ agreed, only if Goldberg put his career on the line. G-Berg accepted, but Stone Cold once again got involved. This time though, it was in Goldberg's favor. The general manager of Raw made the stipulation that if Triple H was counted out or disqualified, he would still lose the World Heavyweight Championship. The match was set for Unforgiven 2003, with a lot riding on it. Goldberg, though, rose to the occasion and put Triple H in his place and captured the gold. The King of Kings wasn't going down that easily, though. Soon after, Triple H put a bounty on Goldberg. The first person who took out the world champ would be given $100,000. This seems kind of like a bizarre version of a Mr. Beast video. Anyways, multiple men tried to take down Goldberg, but they all failed. Then, in October 2003, Goldberg was wrestling a match against Shawn Michaels. Batista interfered and used a chair to injure Goldberg, which earned him the $100,000. It seemed like Goldberg was out of action and therefore couldn't defend the title in Triple H's guaranteed rematch. However, Goldberg was good enough to defend the championship, and he and the Gang would fight one-on-one at Survivor Series. However, before the match, Goldberg bumped into the WWE champion, Brock Lesnar, the first time they had ever crossed paths. Remember this. Anyway, Goldberg clashed with Triple H again in the main event of Survivor Series. All three members of Evolution made their presence known during the match, but Goldberg overcame it all and retained the World Championship. Triple H still wasn't through though, and continued making Goldberg's life miserable. However, Kane got himself involved with the rivalry, attacking both Evolution as well as Goldberg. As you would expect, this set up a triple threat match at Armageddon. Goldberg put in a good effort, but the chaos of the match and a bit of help from Batista allowed Triple H to pin Goldberg and regain the world title. Goldberg was not given an automatic championship rematch. Instead, he was going to have to earn it. As 2004 rolled in, Goldberg announced he'd participate in the Royal Rumble. Making it even sweeter, Goldberg would enter at number 30, thanks to winning a Battle Royal on Raw. At the Rumble, Goldberg bumped into Brock Lesnar again, with both men taking jabs at each other. As you'll soon see, those jabs would become physical. Finally, during the Royal Rumble match, Goldberg was the last man out and instantly took control of it. However, Brock Lesnar ran into the ring and put an end to Goldberg's rampage, causing Demand to get eliminated. With that, Goldberg turned all his attention to Lesnar. A few weeks later, Goldberg was in attendance for the No Way Out pay-per-view, where Lesnar was defending the WWE Championship. During Lesnar's match, Goldberg interfered and cost Brock the title. After that, a match between the two was set for WrestleMania 20, with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the special guest referee. Despite being a dream match, it became one of the most infamous bouts in WrestleMania history. Fans knew both Goldberg and Brock were leaving WWE after this match, and made their displeasure known. Regardless, Goldberg won, but did receive a Stone Cold Stunner to end the night. Following WrestleMania, Goldberg basically retired from wrestling, instead choosing to focus on acting and other projects. However, after over 10 years away from the ring, things started happening. In May 2016, Goldberg was announced as a pre-order bonus for the WWE 2K17 video game. In the months leading up to the game's release, Goldberg would trade insults with Brock Lesnar, who had been back in WWE for 4 years. Finally, Lesnar's advocate, Paul Heyman, challenged Goldberg to appear on Raw. Goldberg accepted and made his return to WWE on October 17, 2016. The two-time world champion agreed to face Brock Lesnar at the same event where they first butted heads, Survivor Series. Lesnar and Goldberg competed in the main event in a match that saw Goldberg win in about 90 seconds. Hot off his victory, Goldberg announced the next night he'd participate in the 2017 Royal Rumble. Lesnar was going to be in that match as well, which led to them getting physical again. During the Rumble, Goldberg entered at number 28 and quickly eliminated Brock Lesnar. Goldberg himself would get eliminated shortly thereafter by The Undertaker, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, after being humiliated by Goldberg twice, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman challenged Goldberg to a match at WrestleMania 33. Goldberg accepted and issued a challenge of his own, a Universal Championship match. The Universal Champion, Kevin Owens, didn't accept, so his best friend, Chris Jericho, accepted on KO's behalf. This led to Owens attacking Jericho and ending their relationship, which proved to be beneficial for Goldberg. Finally, the Fastlane pay-per-view came around, where Goldberg once again competed in the main event. Thanks to a distraction from Jericho's music, Goldberg defeated Kevin Owens in under 30 seconds to win the Universal Championship. This meant Goldberg and Brock's rematch at WrestleMania would now be for the title. In the weeks leading up to it, the two came to blows multiple times, but all that mattered was who would win the match. WrestleMania came, and both men dished out several big moves against each other. In the end, it was Brock Lesnar who got the last laugh, defeating Goldberg and taking his title. In the aftermath, Goldberg said farewell, but this was only temporary. After a WWE Hall of Fame induction in 2018, it was announced in May 2019 that Goldberg was returning. He would have a dream match at Crown Jewel against the man who eliminated him from the Royal Rumble, The Undertaker. Unfortunately, this dream match would go a similar route as Goldberg's WrestleMania 20 match with Lesnar. During the Crown Jewel match, Goldberg busted open his head and got a concussion. A botched jackhammer would see Undertaker nearly become a real dead man, among other mistakes. Luckily, both men did make it out alive, and Undertaker got the win. Despite that, Goldberg would have another match just a few months later. In August 2019, he was announced as Dolph Ziggler's SummerSlam opponent. At the show, Goldberg rebounded from his two previous defeats by defeating Ziggler in under 2 minutes. Goldberg disappeared again, but returned in February 2020. The man announced his desire to get back into the ring, and since he never got his Universal Championship rematch, he issued a challenge to the current champ, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Wyatt accepted, and the two locked up at Super Showdown. The match went much smoother than Goldberg's last one in Saudi Arabia, and on top of that, he won. With the title back around his waist, Goldberg was set to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 36. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Reigns couldn't compete. Therefore, Goldberg fought a new challenger, Braun Strowman. In what you could consider an upset, Strowman beat Goldberg and took the man's belt. Like before, Goldberg would be absent from WWE for several months. He returned at the beginning of 2021 and claimed the WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, didn't have respect for the legends. This led to a war of words, which led to a war in the ring. At the 2021 Royal Rumble, Drew and Goldberg had a physical match that saw McIntyre getting the better of Goldberg. Afterwards, the WWE Hall of Famer disappeared again, but returned in July of that year, confronting the WWE champion again, who is now Bobby Lashley. Goldberg demanded a match at SummerSlam, and while Lashley initially refused, he soon changed his mind. Once the bell rang, the singles match felt more like a handicap match due to involvement from Lashley's manager, MVP. The match ultimately ended due to referee stoppage after Goldberg's knee was injured. Lashley wasn't done though and continued attacking Goldberg, which prompted Goldberg's son to come to his father's aid. Lashley attacked the child, which didn't sit too well with Goldberg. Once he healed, Goldberg demanded a rematch against Lashley. This resulted in a no-holds-barred match at Crown Jewel. Not only did Goldberg avenge his defeat, but he also did it with one of the best spears ever seen. Although his business with Lashley was finished, Goldberg's work wasn't done. Remember back in 2020, Goldberg was supposed to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? Well, Goldberg remembered that. So, in February 2022, Goldberg returned to WWE again and confronted Roman Reigns, who had become the Universal Champion. Goldberg issued a challenge to Reigns, and the match was made official. The two fought one-on-one at the Elimination Chamber event with the Universal Championship on the line. It was the first match on the show, and it did disappoint. It depends on who you talk to, but even people who liked it generally will say the match didn't live up to the hype. In any case, Goldberg lost when Roman put him in the guillotine submission hold, causing Goldberg to pass out. After his defeat, Goldberg disappeared from WWE again, and it seemed like this was it. However, in October 2024, Demand reappeared when he was in attendance for the Bad Blood pay-per-view. The World Heavyweight Champion Gunther came out and called out the Hall of Famer. Gunther insulted the legend, prompting Goldberg to jump the barricade. Security stopped Goldberg from doing anything, but this wouldn't be the last time the WCW legend would butt heads with Gunther. About 8 months after this encounter, Goldberg made his return. He confronted Gunther, who was once again the World Heavyweight Champion. Goldberg said he would wrestle one more match, and it would be against the ring general for the world title in Goldberg's hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. With that, the stage was set for Goldberg's final match. Goldberg started off his last match with his signature entrance by walking from the locker room and into the ring. It was cool when he first did it in the 90s, and it is just as cool now. Once the pageantries were over, the bell rang and the match began. It started slow, with Goldberg displaying his strength by knocking Gunther down twice. Gunther tried to chop Goldberg, but it had no effect. Goldberg then laid into the World Heavyweight Champion. Gunther got a bit of offense in, but a slam from the top rope put the challenger back in the driver's seat. Gunther tried to catch his breath on the outside, but Goldberg wouldn't let him. However, the tide of the match completely changed when a spear attempt caused Goldberg to go crashing through the ringside barricade. Gunther then attacked Goldberg's left knee, which had been injured a few months prior. Goldberg bought himself some recovery time when he hit Gunther with a spine buster. The 4-time world champion began wailing away at his opponent, but the injured left knee was still a problem. Goldberg then went for a spear and inadvertently took out the referee. The world champ used the distraction to once again target Goldberg's knee. He then got dirty and ripped off Goldberg's knee brace. Gunther used the brace as a weapon and then left the ring to mock Goldberg's son. The taunting was Gunther's downfall, as Goldberg treated the ring general to a spear, followed by a jackhammer. A new referee ran in, but due to Goldberg's bad knee, he wasn't able to cover Gunther fast enough, and the match continued. Gunther then locked Goldberg in a sleeper hold, and the challenger began to fade. Goldberg tried to fight out of it, but was unable to, forcing the referee to end the match and award the victory to Gunther. What you might find surprising is that this was Goldberg's longest singles match since he fought The Rock in 2003. Despite that, the match was excellent. Gunther and Goldberg told a story, and it was a great send-off to a legend. Of course, WWE did cut Goldberg's speech at the end short, but hey, you can't have it all. Now, someone with a similar career to Goldberg's is Bobby Lashley. To see his first and last matches, watch the video on screen.